When he finally conquers the first floor of the dungeon, a female elf named Eris makes a comment that they can now take a break since they have finally broken through the difficult starting point. The first floor marks the beginning of the dungeon and is the first real milestone in this new world. Eris is the very first companion he meets after arriving in this ice sky world, and now, after half a year has passed since his sudden summoning, he manages to clear it at last. At the beginning of his journey, he struggles a lot because he knows nothing about the rules or dangers of this unfamiliar world, and he experiences many defeats. Over time, however, he adapts. He and Eris create a small mercenary group and begin taking on requests together. He becomes familiar with the lifestyle. Even though he is now used to this life, something continues to bother him. Eris, without hesitation or embarrassment, often shows off her body around him. She does it so casually that it catches him off guard. As a man, he finds it very difficult to ignore or endure, and it leaves him constantly struggling to keep his composure. After conquering the first floor, Eris brings up his earlier mention of taking a trip to celebrate their progress. She wonders aloud if he meant something simple like camping by the river. He explains that he actually used up all the materials and rewards they gathered during the conquest to repay debts from their previous expenses, so there is nothing left to spare for a proper celebration this time. Still, he promises her that next time they will go somewhere nicer as a reward. Eris, however, mentions that the trip this time has another purpose, calling it their other goal, though he does not understand what she means by that. When he asks, she simply brushes it off, saying it's nothing and that she only wants to help him. Despite her words, he begins to notice her subtle gestures and behavior, little things that suggest she might be trying to get closer to him in a more personal way. He isn't completely sure if she is making a move, but the thought keeps lingering in his mind. Now, it turns out they will be spending the night together during this trip. As they settle in, Eris mentions that there is still some time before dinner. She then suggests they look for a place to swim the next day and casually adds that she has brought a new swimsuit. Eris and her leader share a kiss. In that intimate moment, he instinctively reaches out to touch her ear, something he had always wanted to do. However, he suddenly remembers how she used to avoid him whenever he tried before. Her reactions back then were always clear. She didn't want anyone, not even him, touching her ears. But now, with how close they are, he feels certain that this time will be different. He reaches toward her ears once again, but Eris suddenly pulls back slightly, still flinching. She tells him that he really shouldn't touch them. Despite her hesitation, he gently ignores her words and touches her ears anyway, softly massaging them. He feels the smooth, delicate texture under his fingers and notices that although Eris doesn't seem to be in pain, the area is clearly very sensitive to her. Eris begins to relax and enjoy the sensation. Her leader, surprised by her response, tells her that she should have said something earlier if she liked the feeling. Embarrassed, Eris quickly hides under a blanket, unable to face him. He finds her reaction incredibly cute, especially since it's so unlike the way she usually behaves. Normally, Eris always acts strong and confident, never showing a hint of weakness. She often teases him, calling him a weakling. He remembers how she once scolded him while he was climbing a tree, telling him to put more strength into his arms because she was shocked he was already tired. She would mock humans in general, calling them a fragile species. Another time, she stayed up all night on watch while he slept, again criticizing humans for being so dependent on rest. But now Eris is not acting strong or cold. She's not just pretending to be weak, she is being genuinely vulnerable with him. She's showing a side of herself that she's never shown before, and it takes him completely by surprise. The next morning, Eris and her leader walk side by side through the quiet forest, the sun gently filtering through the trees. The atmosphere is calm, but Eris still seems flustered by what happened between them the night before. She is visibly shocked that he went so far with her during her first experience. He responds by reminding her that she had been the one constantly urging him on, and he simply couldn't bring himself to refuse her. Eris then complains, though not seriously, about how rough he was during their wrestling the night before. Still, with a slightly teasing tone, she tells him that she'll forgive him this time since it felt good anyway. She adds that for a human, he wasn't bad, and casually throws in that she's giving him around 30 points for his performance. It seems she is only half serious, especially when she remarks that she wants to see his bright, proud face get messed up again, clearly enjoying the chance to tease him. As they continue walking, he starts to question why they are going so deep into the forest. He points out that he hasn't brought any weapons for hunting, and he's fairly certain this trip isn't about combat. He also notes that it has been a while since Eris took time off for herself. Then, without hesitation, Eris suddenly reveals the swimsuit she is wearing underneath her clothes. She confidently states that he once mentioned wanting to see her in a swimsuit and she bought it just for that reason. He is left speechless by the fact that she actually remembered such a small comment he made and that she acted on it. Overwhelmed with emotion, perhaps surprise or something deeper, a surge of energy bursts from him without warning. A fierce, powerful aura spreads across the forest like a wave. Far away, a priestess who senses this powerful presence pauses in her ritual, wondering aloud if the source of the energy is the warrior she has heard about. As they walk deeper into the forest, the leader suddenly notices someone nearby, a figure in white robes not far from them, scanning the area with a curious gaze. He is puzzled, wondering why someone like that would be so deep in the forest, far from the beaten path. Realizing that the woman, a priestess, is heading in their direction, he reacts quickly. Without thinking, he hides under Eris' cloak, tucking himself away as quietly as possible. The priestess approaches them and politely greets Eris. She introduces herself as Claire, a priest of the god of light, and asks if Eris has seen anyone else around. Eris, keeping a straight face, tells Claire that she was too focused on hunting to notice if anyone else was nearby. Claire looks around cautiously and mutters to herself, wondering if the warrior she sensed earlier was somewhere else instead. She then turns her attention back to Eris and, noticing her subtle discomfort, asks if something is wrong. Eris quickly improvises an excuse, saying she got hurt a little during her earlier hunting, trying not to raise any suspicion. Claire, hearing this, immediately offers to heal her, explaining that as a priestess of the god of light, it is her sacred duty to help anyone in pain. Eris tries to refuse, insisting that she doesn't need healing. But Claire is persistent. With firm conviction, she declares that she cannot turn away from someone who is injured. Eventually, Eris gives in and agrees to be healed. Claire begins chanting softly, preparing to cast her healing spell. Meanwhile, the leader, still hidden under the robe, listens carefully. He thinks about how he has never seen healing magic before since arriving in this world. From what he's heard, healing magic in this world isn't just physical, it connects the priest's mind to the mind of the person being healed, allowing them to share sensations. As Claire completes the chant, the magic activates and immediately her body goes weak. The expression on her face changes and she suddenly collapses to the ground, overwhelmed. Claire tries to gather herself as she lies on the forest floor, breathing heavily and clutching at her robe. Her mind reels from the intense sensations she has just experienced through the healing spell. She remembers the strict teachings of the temple, the sacred doctrine that a priestess must abstain from impure thoughts, maintain a composed heart, and resist all worldly temptations. These lessons had been etched into her from a young age, guiding every step of her life. Yet now everything seems to fall apart. The feelings that overwhelm her body are completely foreign, immoral, confusing, and deeply physical. Claire, still affected by the shared connection with Eris, struggles to suppress the sensations, reminding herself over and over that she is a devoted follower of the god of light. But her restraint slips further the more she tries to control it, and her composed demeanor crumbles. Eventually, Claire gives in to the emotional and physical wave she can no longer resist. She lowers her gaze, her cheeks red, and with a tone that trembles between shame and surrender, she declares that if she has been violated in such a way, even indirectly, then the only answer is for the one responsible to take care of her. She places the burden of responsibility on the leader, not in anger, but as someone giving herself up to the consequences of the moment. What surprises him more is the reaction from Eris. She shows no resistance, no jealousy, no conflict. In fact, her expression suggests quiet agreement, as though she, too, sees this turn of events as natural or inevitable. It is in that moment, surrounded by two women who have both accepted him in ways he never expected, that the leader finally understands this isn't just a brief episode or passing encounter. This is the true beginning of his life in this world, the moment everything changes. With a strange sense of unity among the three of them, they make their way home together.